right. And we'll begin things here in just a moment. These players are just waiting for the green light from us, and we will watch Omnitel and Grixis Control in action. VanMeter will start with a Gataxian Probe. So we'll see a Tasker, a Cabal Therapy, a Force of Will, a Counterspell, a Dig Through Time, and a Scalding Tarn, so just a one-lander here.
Yeah, looks like Paul Mulligan here, and this is a finds his card hand.
We'll see the 16 next to Chris's name. If you're within the top 16 of our leaderboard, it means you get 2 buys to open up an Open Series event, which is really important for Chris because he's looking to make his way back to the Open Series and get back to the Players' Championship. So this weekend, he snuck right into 16th place, which gave him 2 buys.
We have been talking a lot about the 5 players that we believe have a chance to qualify for the Players' Championship, but for some of the players further down the list, but still in the top 16, like Chris VanMeter, like Andrew Boswell, maintaining these 2 buys at Opens is a huge deal.
Yes. Talking with Chris this weekend, he felt that this deck was incredibly powerful. He played this in IQ last weekend. I believe he split the finals of it with Brian Braunduin, who was playing a Legacy Collected Company deck, and he just felt that this Omnitel deck was more powerful than most of the things he's ever played in Legacy.
There's just very little dead weight. I mean, if you look at the list here, what are the cards you would describe as dead or only good when you're killing someone? 2 copies of Emrakul and 4 copies of Omniscience. The rest of this is cantrips, counter spells. It's just, there's no fat.
Yeah, all set up to get it going.
Yeah. There's no Dream Halls, there's no Enter the Infinites, there's much fewer dead-end hands.
It feels very High Tide-esque in that effect.
That's the exact comparison I was going to make, except instead of having to go through all these gymnastics and draw all these specific spells, it's a much easier base to go off with.
Now, you do open yourself up to some things by playing a mono-blue deck like Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast, but I suppose that's all part of it.
And it's not like those cards are bad against the blue-red combo decks either, you know what I mean? They're going to be tagging your Ponders and your Show and Tells the exact same way, so.
Well, VanMeter with a Ponder to start things off.
Okay, judges, you may now please collect the deck lists and make
We'll
sure
see what
that
Lynch
all
can
of
put
those are
together
collected.
here with his Grixis Control deck. Innovative deck here from
Modern
Paul.
players.
Got a little bit of a Cabal Therapy package going on with Young Pyromancer. He's got a main deck Tassiger and a Shreya Nemesis. We've seen Grixis decks before. They can be pretty good.
And I typically in Legacy play decks that don't have very good matchups against combo decks, but against decks like Omnitel, I've always felt like the matchup was halfway decent because the deck just has a very high fail rate. They get opening hands that don't go anywhere, and they can die on turn 3 without doing very much. This build of Omnitel, that's not going to be happening.
Here's a Cabal Therapy. You see Chris's hand with Omniscience, Emrakul, 2 copies of Cunning Wish, and 2 Polluted Deltas. We'll see exactly what Paul did name as he writes down the information. And he did name Show and Tell. I think if you play against Chris VanMeter in the dark, that's a pretty safe name.
Gataxian Probe into Ponder is also kind of a combo-ish sort of start. The basic Island.
Give Paul some credit here. He's wearing my favorite baseball hat.
It's a great logo. It is a great logo. Great colors, great logo.
Baltimore Orioles hat. Big fan.
John Lubrano to the stage, please.
VanMeter will take a draw. Picked up a copy of Show and Tell. Surprise, surprise. Hid that one away.
Crafty. Not Chris's first rodeo.
No, I don't think so. There's a Polluted Delta. Pass the turn back over to Lynch. Lynch will play a Scalding Tarn. Here's a Cabal Therapy.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, well, he knows he's got Cunning Wish in hand. So we'll see what Lynch wants to name here.
Paul's deck does have a fair bit of dead weight against combo decks, but he does have Force of Will and Cabal Therapy, 2 very good tools. He's drawn quite a few of them early on. And hopefully on his side of the table, he can get a clock going soon. Even just a creature to flash back these Cabal Therapies would do a lot of work.
Indeed. Cunning Wish was the name. Chris discarded both of them. Paul sees the new information, which is a copy of Show and Tell. Pass the turn back over to VanMeter. See if VanMeter wants to sack the fetch land or not. Looks like he doesn't. Draw a copy of Brainstorm for the turn. And he will cast the Brainstorm. Some fun conversation back and forth between the players here.
I think Chris is potentially regretting the way he set up his Ponder there. He could have drawn Brainstorm and let the Show and Tell down.
Ah, yes.
Which would have been, Brainstorm would have been a very nice response against the Cabal Therapy.
Wouldn't have been too bad.
But you know, you want to make an omelet, break some eggs. Or some other analogy.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
No, that's it.
I'm just in the mood for some eggs now.
Right.
To those pairings boards outside. If you guys if you can get on your phone, if you go to the website, pairings.StarCityGames.
Chris going to resolve a brainstorm. Looks like Emerald will maybe going away.
You hit refresh, then it'll give you your table.
This deck is really good at casting dig through time.
Oh, yeah.
It seems a Cabal Therapy certainly helps by putting 2 cards in the graveyard, but it doesn't seem very hard to cast dig through time in this deck at all.
Gitaxian Pro, Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain. Pretty good base.
Fetch lands too.
Yep. 9 fetch lands against 5 islands.
It seems laughably easy.
Yep.
There's 6 cards in the graveyard right now.
And there's 2 deltas he hasn't even had to touch yet.
Yeah. Lynch will draw a card. Picked up a copy of Brainstorm. There's the powerful card manipulation spell.
Paul could have just sat on his heels here and let them counterspell, but I think he's trying to find a creature to pair with those Cabal Therapies or just to get some pressure going.
Chris going to sacrifice the Delta here.
You have 50 minutes. You may begin.
And there's an island. We're going to have Spell Piercer on the Brainstorm. Chris may be sensing a little bit of weakness.
Well, it's not clear if he's going to get to Spell Pierce anything else. Brainstorm is very important for Paul right now because he's on the hunt for mana and creatures. And Chris's mana may be taxed down the line. So this is a pretty good spot to cash in.
4 main deck Spell Pierces in this build of Omnitel. 4 Force of Wills as well. Paul may be considering a card like Force of Will here.
Well, if he forces back, there's a good chance he just dies.
Yeah.
I think Paul knows this too.
VanMeter successfully Spell Pierces the Brainstorm. We'll head to Chris's way. He'll take a draw. It's a Brainstorm. He will cast the Brainstorm. 3 cards coming, fetch land in play. Two islands and a Force of Will.
Force of Will, a huge draw here as Chris is getting very close to being able to push through the kill.
Yeah, it might be go time here soon. He's got to put 2 cards back, which is a little awkward because he can't put a combination of cards back that allow him to just go off with Force backup. I think he's got to wait 1 more turn.
Exactly, he needs 4 spells. He needs Show and Tell plus the thing to Show and Tell in, plus Force of Will plus blue card.
Yeah.
And if he takes a land here to have 3 mana, then he's down 1 of the 4 cards in question. So he has to wait till next turn, but still not a bad place to be.
Chris going to sacrifice a fetch land.
Maybe just be casting Dig Through Time right now.
While the shields are down, presumably.
And Chris may not even be sad to trade this with something like Spell Pierce or Daze. Even
That's
if that
true.
even if Paul has drawn it, Chris might say, okay, well, better on this Dig Through Time rather than on the Show and Tell I'm trying to set up for next turn.
Weighing his options here with the dig. Looks like he will cast it. Yeah, this feels like a dig through time deck. There's Force of Will. Force of Will removing dig through time.
Modern players, table 253 and above are outside.
Chris has actually gone so far as to say this is a dig through time deck that happens to play Show and Tell, not the other way around. Wow, we're gonna force back here. Well, this means this is a dig through time deck then.
Yep.
If he's forcing removing Omniscience.
Well, he knows he's playing against Counterspell next turn, the literal card Counterspell.
Yep.
So this is an opportunity to push through this dig, and there's a very good chance that he finds another combo piece to go off with, and then a cantrip or a Counterspell of some sort. So, and as you see, he gets a replacement Force of Will if he wants it.
Yep. Replacement Omniscience too. And he got a Force of Will out of his opponent's hand. So it looks like he's going to take Force of Will and Omniscience here. Dig through time done resolving. Pass the turn back. Over to Lynch. Lynch going to draw. Pick up a copy of Lightning Bolt. Wrong matchup for that card.
And now I believe Chris, if he draws a spell, a blue spell, with the ability to push through just counterspell.
Yep. He picked up a copy of Gataxian Probe.
Which is kind of awkward because he wants to see the Gataxian, he wants to cast Gataxian Probe to see if the coast is clear. But if he happens to draw a land or an Emrakul, it means he can't combo off anymore. Or maybe isn't able to combo off anymore.
Hey, he's just going to guess show and tell.
Modern players, it looks like
I'm just going to sacrifice the fetch land.
I think at this point, Chris is saying, most likely I'm just playing against counterspell. It would be the reason Paul did nothing last turn. I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, and if Chris gets Omniscience in play, Paul can't get it out of play, most likely.
Right.
And eventually I'll find something and chain off and likely kill you. I don't have to kill you all in one turn.
Exactly.
I can just put Omniscience in play.
No recoils hanging out in Paul's deck, most likely. So.
Boy, that would be a beating. There's Forcible removing Gataxian Probe. Now, things do get a little interesting here because Paul does have something to put into play in Tasigur, and that's a clock.
It's something, it's just so hard for Chris to miss turn after turn because the deck's all cantrips. So
It's very, very difficult, but at the same time, you've got Tasigur attacking for 4, VanMeter's down to 10, and now a dig through time resolving on the other side of the table.
Bolt in Paul's hand.
Yes.
So the dead draws from Chris's side of the table at this point are lands and counter spells.
Yes.
Everything else is pretty solid.
And if Paul finds another Lightning Bolt, Chris could actually lose this game. And Chris is actually down to 9, so an attack from Tasigur brings him down to 5. A Lightning Bolt brings him down to 2. Another attack gets the job done. So Chris doesn't have a ton of draw steps here. Now, like you said, it only takes one cantrip, but there are definitely some dead draws. Show and Tell's a dead draw. Counterspells are dead draws. Omniscience are dead draw. And there are a lot of hits that win the game immediately, like Cunning Wish or Emrakul. But there are some whiffs.
And if Paul finds a counterspell in all this too, it's pretty solid as well.
Dig through time done resolving here for Paul. I guess you're very quickly becoming a dig through time format. There's a Pluto Delta.
Certainly for the decks that are on the slower end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
It's becoming a very, very dig through time oriented format.
Chris looking for a cantrip. I don't think Chris finding a cantrip.
Looked like a blue card.
It did look like a blue card, but there are bad blue cards to draw.
Show and tell and the counterspells.
Yeah, Omniscience too, don't forget that.
Yep.
Paul going to search up a volcanic island. Lightning Bolt's going to go upstairs, push it out to 6. Chris might be considering a counterspell or something here. Yeah, going to cast Force of Will. That'll buy him a turn.
Yep.
Actually, might buy him 2. 9 to 5, 5 to 1. Yeah, that'll buy him a couple turns. He's down to 5 now. Time to cast a Brainstorm, perhaps. It's a very important Brainstorm here for Lynch. Peel 3. Tasigur, Scalding Tarn. Looks like a Ponder. Ponder will give him weird redraws.
Yep. I mean, at this point, Paul really just wants a counterspell.
Yeah. Fetch land's important. Lets him shuffle away. Put the land on top into play since he knew it was already there. Now he gets to ponder, look at 3 fresh ones. VanMeter still looking to peel. So now it's ponder time. Two and 3. Deathrite Shaman, Force of Will. And Pluto Delta. Deathrite Shaman makes it lethal. It's hard to say no to that.
I mean, he can't do anything with that Force of Will. He's no blue card to pair it with, so I think it's Deathrite Shaman's the card. You say to Chris, kill me this turn or you're dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Redraws. Here we go. Brainstorm, Ponder, Gataxian Probe. So now we have to see it. Now he has to figure out how to order all this stuff.
Right.
See how he can maximize, see as many cards as possible.
So I think it's Cataxian Probe. You draw a Cataxian Probe and then set Brainstorm as the second card.
Okay. See your hand, doesn't matter. Freebie, draw Brainstorm, cast Brainstorm for free. All these cards are for free. 2, 3. Land, preordain.
So that's another redraw. You can scry these two to the bottom. Redraw.
Show and tell is a whammy. Fair enough. Paul Lynch going to win game number 1 here over Chris VanMeter. Grixis Control up a game over Omnitel. Fun to see him get the cantrip like that a bunch.
I love just the Yahtzee at the end. That's just great.
Yeah, many a redraw.
So many redraws. It's not clear if he has the kill or not so many times.
We take a look at the sideboards. We will start with VanMeters. He's got a lot of one-ofs over there. Jeez.
Yeah, well, it's a Cunning Wish deck, so a lot of it's devoted to that sort of thing. The non-Cunning Wish elements of the sideboard, 2 copies of Young Pyromancer, 2 copies of Lightning Bolt. And then there's Red Elemental Blast, Pyroblast, Eldamar's Call, Through the Breach, Pyroclasm, Wipe Away, Firemind's Foresight, Flusterstorm, Electrickery, Release the Ant, Surgical Extraction, basically just all his wish targets. So the question is, does he want to become a little bit more of a value deck that isn't so reliant on the combo by bringing in Young Pyromancer and Lightning Bolt? I think the answer is yes, because Paul's deck is the type of deck that loads up on discard and counterspells and probably bails on most of his creature removal.
Take a look at Lynch's sideboard. He's got a lot of one-ups too. Yikes. A Pithing Needle, Numasawa's Jite, a Flusterstorm, a Vendilion Click, an Ancient Grudge, a Null Rod, a Cabal Therapy, a Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Izzet Staticaster to go along with 2 Graph Trigger's Cages, 2 Fork Bolts, and 2 very obvious Pyroblasts.
Yeah, the 2 Pyroblasts just absolutely have to come in. I think the Flusterstorm is very solid here. The Vendilion Click is going to be good. The additional copy of Cabal Therapy.
Let's talk Season 3 here on the Open Series, as this is the last Open Series event for Season 2, outside of course, our Season 2 Invitational at the Origins Game Fair in a couple of weeks. We're going to kick off Season 3, not with an Open Series event, but a Grand Prix in Charlotte.
Yeah, very excited about this. Modern Grand Prix in Charlotte coming on the heels of Modern appearing as the first time as an invitational format in Columbus the week before. That'll be June 12th to 14th. A Standard Open Series in Indianapolis. Then we go to Baltimore. Chicago for the first time in Open Series history, July 18th and 19th. Go back to Richmond for a Standard Open Series, Legacy in Washington, D.C., a Standard Grand Prix in London, August 14th through 16th, a Modern Open Series event in Charlotte, and then the Season 3 Invitational in New Jersey, Standard and Legacy as the Invitational format with a 2-day, $20,000 Standard Open Series event, August 28th through 30th.
Looking forward to all those dates. And, of course, any Open Series event that you sign up for during Season 3, no strings attached, you will get the brand new Season 3 playmat. It is Tassipur. Yes, Tassipur, the golden dog. Look at him. Look at the pooch.
Yeah, the poor pooch. Tassipur, the golden paw.
The golden paw, excuse me.
Hanging out here, scheming up something, probably how to tear up your carpet or scratch your drapes or other things to make sure you don't get your security deposit back. As I am discovering, as I am moving from my old apartment to my new one.
This wouldn't be a problem if you had fish.
It's true.
So you know. That's why fish are a better pet than cats and dogs.
Yeah. What's the way for me to snap Patrick's blinds so he loses his security deposit?
That's what they're dialing up.
That's what that cat is scheming about right now.
Nice. I don't know why it has a whip to destroy the blinds, but that's neither here nor there.
Didn't Patrick leave out a stack of Legacy cards on his nightstand? Better go knock that over.
This is why I don't have pets.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I love Levi, but
ignoring all the travel that I do.
He can be a bit much sometimes.
Bit of a pain.
Yeah.
Bit of a pain. The blinds thing is really, it's too much.
Yeah.
Might as well just take them down. You can actually preempt that.
You know, it's true. But there's nothing to be. If I was going to preempt everything that cat would do, then I would just have to live in a box, basically. You know.
Actually, I don't know. I don't have a cat.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm pet free. Maybe one day. One day when the traveling ceases, I think I'm gonna get a dog. But I'm still unsure about that. It's a lot of work.
It's true
to have a dog. Dogs are sweet, but you know when I was a kid, I was babysat by someone who lived 2 houses down from me, and they had a dog. And so I was like 5 years old, and they would just like let the dog out the back door, and the dog would just like, mize around in the backyard and then come back in. I thought that's what owning a dog was like.
Right.
They just mize around a little bit, and then, when like you eat dinner, they like want your food.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you give it to them, and then there's like a water bowl that you fill up, and it's like, cool, that's having a dog. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, there's quite a bit more.
So maybe one day, get a little pooch.
Mm-hmm.
No idea what kind of dog I want, but
Just, if you want to get your security deposit back, just telling you.
I'll just give up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Got to find apparently there are pet-friendly apartment complexes, someplace you just can't have pets.
Yeah, no, the place I'm moving into is cat-friendly because of Levi, naturally.
Yeah. I don't know how these things work. I'm an uninformed adult, especially when it comes to pets. Looks like Chris has some red cards in his hand.
Yeah, it looks like he has brought in the young Pyromancer, Lightning Bolt. Not necessarily young Pyromancer, but he's brought in the Pyroblast out of the board.
Looks like he has a Lightning Bolt, too. Here's a Gataxian Probe from Lynch. So you get to see VanMeter's hand. And you'll find a Brainstorm. Let's make it 2 of those. A Preordained Lightning Bolt, a Pyroblast, and a Polluted Delta. So there you go. Nothing too crazy going on over there for Chris. You're not going to find Show and Tell or Omniscience or Emrakul, none of the combo pieces. Just kind of playing a normal game of Magic at this point.
All right, but these are actually almost the most dangerous hands because hands like this are very durable against discard spells, and you're working with a lot of uncertainty about what Chris's hand looks like as the game proceeds.
So Lynch has all the info. At least for now. Very difficult to pick this hand apart with a card like Cabal Therapy.
Yeah, Therapy almost has no value. That's why the hands that have all the combo pieces, they look really good, but they're often the easiest hands to disrupt. The one that Chris's hand looks like, it looks innocuous, but in reality, very, very dangerous.
Fetch line here from Paul. He's got to go down to 17, get himself an Underground C. See what spell he wants to cast. You have to assume something's coming. It's going to be a Ponder. See if Chris has any interest in fighting over this. Given that he does have a Pyroblast in his hand. He does not. So this Ponder will resolve. Look at another Ponder. Fetch land 2. Paul weighing his options here as he looks at his hand. Looks like there's going to be a lot of interaction in this game.
Yep. I mean, this is a very typical Legacy opening where, Paul's working with a lot of information on what Chris's hand is like because of the Gataxian Probe. And the operations with his fetch lands and cantrips are another layer of complexity. So even though that took a long time for Paul to play 2 spells in a land, there's so many implications for all the decisions.
Show and Tell the draw here for VanMeter. Going to start by sacrificing his Misty Rainforest. Down to 19 goes Chris. We'll see if it'll be the non-basic and Volcanic Island or the basic and Island. He'll go with the non-basic. Wants access to both colors of mana. 2 Volcanic Islands in the deck. Going with 9 fetch lands, so can consistently find those Volcanic Islands without having to play a ton of them.
Also, it's a day through time deck.
It is.
So you want as many cards in the graveyard as possible.
Here's a Preordain. We'll scry 2. Brainstorm among those cards. Looks like Ponder may be the other.
How do you feel about 2 redraws?
Well, get used to it. That's what this deck does.
Just so many variables.
To answer your question, I have no idea. This kind of deck is not my expertise. There are no creatures attacking.
Mm-hmm. That's not true. He's got 2 young Pyromancers and 2 Emrakuls.
Excuse me. Here's Deathrite Shaman. Nice juicy Lightning Bolt target. And Deathrite Shaman's going to resolve. See if Chris wants to kill this now, or if he'd like to draw the next card. He left them both on top of Preordain after all. He'll sacrifice the Polluted Delta. Go down to 18. We might have another Volcanic on the way. Taking a look at Paul's deck list, no Wastelands hiding out here.
I think at this point, Chris can kind of sense that Paul's deck is not really about that sort of thing. It's hard for a multicolor deck to have a basic mountain in it and a bunch of Wastelands.
There is the Bolt. That'll take care of the Deathrite Shaman. Board's clear as VanMeter moves on to his third turn. Scalding Tarn the draw. Time for a Ponder. See if this will resolve. It's all set up here in the early stages of this game. That's good. So Force of Will is one. Looks like City of Traders and Force of Will the other two. We'll see if VanMeter wants to keep the powerful counter spells or not.
He's got Show and Tell and Permission, but nothing to pair with the Show and Tell right now. So the question is he better served trying to just find more action, or does he feel like he will definitely need Force of Will at some point to do what he's going to do? And because he has Brainstorm plus a fetch line, he's not committed to taking all three of those cards if he doesn't want to. So he can take Force of Will if he feels like that's a requirement, and then Brainstorm and get rid of the second Force of Will and the City Traders if he feels like those are redundant or unnecessary.
Well, he was happy enough that he took one Force of Will. Now he'll play his Scalding Tarn. And now we'll get a Brainstorm. That's going to bother a move, or excuse me, a counterspell, it looks like. Maybe not. It's unclear.
A lot of implications for every decision.
Yep. There's Pyroblast. It's interesting because I don't know how important this Brainstorm is at this point for Chris.
Well, if Paul still has good information on what Chris's hand looked like from that Gitaxian probe, he may want to fight over this Brainstorm just because it allows him to operate with some certainty with his Cabal Therapy. Because once Brainstorm resolves, he is guessing. He's in the dark. But if there's still a card in Chris's hand he knew about initially, then it gives him a lot more information to work with the Cabal Therapy. And with paired with this Young Pyromancer, he could do some real work on Chris's hand.
Pyromancer on the stack. See if VanMeter has anything. Nope. Lynch going to sacrifice his Polluted Delta, go get himself an Underground Sea. It might be therapy time.
Now this is a combo.
Oh, you're a fan of this?
Oh yeah. Make a token. Now you got something to flash back the therapy with.
Which gets you another token. So it's like you lost nothing.
Young Pyromancer, Gitaxian Probe. Young Pyromancer, Cabal Therapy. And Cabal Therapy, Gitaxian Probe are all combos.
Yeah, yep.
And they all make me really happy.
Yep. Doesn't take much.
Yep.
Oh, we're going to get that elemental token out of here. We have Chris VanMeter elemental tokens.
Right. Don't you want to do him dirty with his own token?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Chris is going to sacrifice his Scalding Tarn in response. We're going to see a Brainstorm here from him. That's literally why the token exists, is to do Chris dirty with them.
I'm sure we got the Dylan Donegan tokens flying around here somewhere too, but should be the CVMs.
Here's a Brainstorm in response. 1 and 2 and 3, and let's hide some. Show and Tell, Cunning Wish, Omniscience, all cards in Chris's hand now too. Now he's got to get it all set up.
So if I'm Paul, I love these kind of guessing games. If I'm Paul, I name Pyroblast because I know it's in Chris's hand, and I know it's impossible for it to be good enough for Chris to hide.
Okay. Okay.
I think anything else you're just guessing. But I would be pretty certain that the Pyroblast will be in his hand when it's all said and done.
Okay. Chris has got to make sure that he sets this up right.
Keep in mind, Paul gets a flashback too, so he gets the Pyroblast for sure, and then can take whatever the critical piece appears to be in Chris's hand on the way out.
This is kind of the game inside the game. This is the fun part.
Well, Chris has got to think, what is Paul going to name? Given that I'm hiding the best 2 cards, is there a way to kind of mess him up here a little bit? Now, there's only so much insulation that Chris can get in this spot because Paul is going to be able to flash back the therapy. So
yes.
Chris has to play this pretty straight up and hide his 2 best cards. But there is room for some gamemanship inside of that.
The tough part is what are his 2 best cards?
And it looks like Chris is hiding the Pyroblast because he knows that Paul knows about it and that Paul is likely guessing no matter what or naming Pyroblast.
So that could be the whiff.
Yeah, this is fun stuff. I would still just name Pyroblast in Paul's seat.
I would hide the Pyroblast against you.
Well, now you know.
Yeah.
And now I know that you know. So
maybe,
now
maybe you'd name something else. All right, well, let's see what Paul names.
All right, after a minute there.
So what did Paul name? Named Dig Through Time.
Okay. The problem that I have with Dig Through Time as the name is that Paul gets to flash back the therapy, so there's no way Chris leaves a card that good in his hand.
Sure.
If you're going to name a blue card in the dark, I think you need to name a medium tier card like Ponder or Force of Will, something in that kind of territory.
Here's Show and Tell now. There's Omniscience. Yeah, Chris set this up pretty well.
Yeah, this is nice.
Now he gets to cast Cunning Wish. Now he gets to search through his sideboard. I think you should grab the Pyroclasm, kill everything to go. You don't agree?
No.
Firemind's Foresight maybe instead?
Firemind's Foresight is fine. I sort of like Eladamri's Call and dialing up Embercold. Although Embercold might have been boarded out.
Yeah, looks like he's going to go grab the Foresight here. So this is a fun one. I love this aspect when the deck's going off. So he gets to get a 1, a 2, and a 3 mana spell, but he's only got a 1 and a 3 mana spell. So now he's going to go get Eldamri's Call. Eldamri's Call is going to go get this, but he makes sure that he's safe with Brainstorm just in case anything goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets to attack for a whole bunch, kill all the permanents, and kill you. The 2 mana spell in the deck that he could go get is Impulse, but it looks like he boarded it out.
I have a Firemind's Foresight story. I thought that it was instant or sorcery and played it in a booster draft, and it did not work that way, so I cast Firemind's Foresight getting cancel.
Nice. 7 mana, tutor for cancel, go.
I went on to lose this game.
That's a shock. Really can't believe that.
Yep.
Real shockaroo there.
I was like, oh, I got, like the detain a creature, draw a card, spell.
An action injunction.
Right, I get this nice package of cantrips and a cancel. This will be pretty sweet. And then Magic Online highlights just the cancel in my deck.
Would you like this?
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess it's this or nothing, so I'll take the cancel.
Fair enough. Chris did not lose after casting Firemind's Foresight. It's 1-1. We'll get ready for a third one here in just a moment. While we do, we'll talk about SCG Game Night, a very popular promotion that is popular because of you viewers and players at home, so we thank you. We've got some new stuff for you here in May, June, and July.
Yeah, every month we send out a new kit with a new pin and foil token. Stores can set up Game Night for however they want to do it, any day of the week, any format, just because some players in your store for some fun and friendly magic. If you want to get the B token here, you're running out of time as May is drawing to a close. We have the June kit ready to go here, the bunny. It is too late to get signed up for June, but if you want to get signed up for July, we have the Piglet kit here ready to go for you. Head over to StarCityGames.com/Game Night for more information or contact your Star City Games organized play representative.
The game inside the game there with the Brainstorm and the Cabal Therapy. I love it.
Yeah.
I do love it. I like this Omnitel deck a lot, too. I'm a big fan.
I can appreciate combo decks that have no fat.
Yeah, those are my favorite kind. A million cantrips and going off.
I never, as a player, could really get behind decks like Sneak and Show, where you have 16 sort of dead cards and you're hoping to slap them together. Now, that deck's super good, can definitely win tournaments and all that kind of stuff. Just I'm saying on a personal level, I never really enjoyed playing those kind of decks because you drop these opening hands of cantrips and a Gristlebrand, and you say, oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing.
Can't mulligan.
But this deck is much leaner. If I was going to play a combo deck in Legacy, it would be something like this.
You're not much of a combo guy.
I had my flirtations with Turboland back in the day. The Horn of Greed Exploration combo deck.
I always liked that deck when I was reading about it when I was younger. I think I proxied it up at some point, but it was much too difficult for me.
I think that I played it probably at a C-, D+.
Very nice.
But that was still good enough to take infinite turns and win a pretty good percentage of my matches at PTQs.
Sure.
But no, I was no surgeon with that deck by any means.
I'm trying to think if I've had any success with a combo deck. Assuming that you consider Dredge to be a combo deck.
Well, it's certainly not a beatdown deck or a control deck.
But it was like more of an honest combo. Like it was more of an honest deck because there was a lot of attacking that was involved in a lot of John Rusalka activations. Rarely did I just, put a big moron into play early and my opponent couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So it's its own animal. It's its own style of deck.
Dredge is a weird thing because Dredge opens up the question of what is a Magic deck?
Yeah, that's
what
true.
mechanics of Magic does a deck have to be involved with for it to be considered a Magic deck? I think lands and spells are a pretty good baseline. Dredge is sort of its own thing.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit into anything.
It's a thought experiment.
Yeah.
It's not really a Magic deck.
I guess you could call it combo until it just plays the game of just attacking you, and then it's not a combo deck at all.
Yep.
It's very strange.
But Turboland was a deck that I enjoyed. Although Turboland did have a lot of fat. Exploration and Horn of Greed, and there's a lot of kind of fidgety pieces.
Horn of Greed's a sweet card. Always loved that card. Chris on a mulligan is 6 here.
And of course, you also just won a good percentage of your games by just casting Oath of Druids and your opponent's decks of creatures and spells being locked.
This is during the Battlefield Scrounger days?
No, this predates that.
Okay.
This is Feeder Weaver Morphling.
Okay. Those are the spikes.
Well, yeah, I eventually cut the Morphling because the easiest way to lose is you're getting beat down and you oath up a Morphling and you die.
Oh, sure. Sure. Here's a Ponder from Paul.
And Oath of Druids for Mahamuni Dijin. Why is this in my deck? But yeah, you had the old pre-Scrounger package.
Fire Ice Dig Through Time among the options here for Lynch. He's shuffling with Ponder, not like what he saw.
Legacy winner box, Curran Delahanty. Curran Delahanty, please report back to your Legacy winner box in the outside hall. Thank you.
Mystery card coming here for Lynch. It's a Polluted Delta. Passing the turn over to VanMeter. VanMeter picked up a Lightning Bolt for the turn. Chris already does have, I believe, a Show and Tell in hand. Looks like he's going to kickstart with a Ponder. So 1 is Emrakul. 2 is Dig Through Time. 3 is Polluted Delta. Chris going to consult the grip. And my eyes have deceived me. It's just a Brainstorm and a Lightning Bolt along with lands.
And again, because of the fetch land, is the opportunity to have a lot of control over this. If he's taking the fetch land, I think he just wants all 3 and wants maximum protection against a discard spell next turn.
That appears to be the case. Here's a Brainstorm from Lynch. That's going to resolve. 11 and a half minutes left to go here in this match.
Not a whole lot of turns have been played.
No, it's weird. But there's been a lot of brainstorming, pondering, fidgeting, and then all of a sudden something happens and one person wins or loses.
And there's a lot of the sort of I know that he knows that I know that he knows sort of decision trees going on in these games, and that can make the pace of play pretty slow.
There's a Polluted Delta. Polluted Delta will be cracked, which makes it a very productive Brainstorm. There is an Underground Sea. We'll see what the follow-up is here for Paul in just a moment. It's a Deathrite Shaman. So now he should be good to go as far as mana is concerned. His VanMeter will draw a card. It's that Dig Through Time. Here's a Brainstorm for Chris. Emrakul will be the first card. We'll see what the other 2 are here momentarily.
And this is such a juicy Brainstorm here because Chris has more mana than he needs in his hand. What he's shuffling away is going to be basically 2 dead cards, and he can finish off his turn if he wants to by fetching for Volcanic Island and bolting the Deathrite Shaman.
That's a pretty good turn then. He's found cards he wants to put away. Now he'll play Polluted Delta. I think we'll go see a Volcanic Island and a Lightning Bolt here in just a moment. Deathright Shaman is probably annoying enough that it's got to be killed.
And what else is this Bolt doing, you know?
Not too much here. You also have an opponent over there without any red mana at this point.
Yep. Don't know if Young Pyromancer's hanging out in his hand or...
There's a Bolt. See you later, Deathright. Pass the turn back. Lynch will draw. Copy of Brainstorm.
And
There's a Delta.
suddenly Chris's hand that looked a little mana heavy and not much going on is just juiced.
He's got Show and Tell and Emrakul in hand. City of Traders, Preordained. He'll play the Preordained to start, it seems. That's good. So take a look at a couple cards. Brainstorm and Omniscience.
Another thing about this Omnitel deck is a lot of the combo decks of Legacy, pretty expensive to put together. As far as Legacy combo decks go, I would describe this as a budget option. Still an expensive deck in terms of the retail price, but relative to other options.
One of the cheaper ones.
And a lot of the expensive pieces of this deck, 4 Force of Wills, 2 Volcanic Islands, you can put those in a bunch of different decks. It's not like you have to buy candelabras.
There's some real overlap.
Right.
No Tabernacle.
Right.
That's for rootin' tootin'.
No Ravages of War.
Here's a Brainstorm now. See if this one resolves. Paul considering a counterspell, maybe. He'll have a Brainstorm in response. Like we said, a lot of manipulation. Paul has 2 copies of Forcible in hand now. You can tell those are the ones that are altered. So he'll have to put 2 cards back here. He does have a fetch land in play to make it a quality Brainstorm. That fetch land can search up the red mana that he's missing. So you can see the copy of Pyroblast in hand. But Lynch has a very powerful hand at this point. VanMeter's Brainstorm will resolve.
Yep. It is not proactive, and you have to worry about that because combo decks in Legacy do have a habit of being able to push past a handful of disruption if given enough time.
Yep.
Paul would really like to be backing this up with a threat card. If he draws something like Tassiger next turn, then his hand becomes exceptional.
Misty Rainforest. VanMeter will crack that. There's an island. The Taxing Probe, I'm not sure Chris is going to like what he sees.
I wonder if Paul thinks this may be worthy of a Pyroblast.
I show him the goods. I show him the 2 forces, a Ponder, a Pyroblast, and a Deathright Shaman. Write all that down. Here's what you got to beat. Draw a card from the Pro, pick up another copy of Cunning Wish. Pass that turn back. Go to Lynch's way. Lynch will draw a copy of Cabal Therapy. Yikes. We'll start with a Ponder. More manipulation. Very quickly resolving this Ponder. It feels like a shuffle to me.
Well, 2 of them were lands. I believe there's 1 spell here.
You must be happy with that spell. Let's copy a Brainstorm. There's Deathright Shaman.
Yeah, I feel like it's very important for Paul this turn to get something into play.
Yeah.
Get a clock going. Because Chris knows what your hand is like, and he's not going to play into everything until he's ready to go. So you got to try to shorten the length of the game a bit.
Chris picked up a copy of Brainstorm, so he'll cast that. So 3 cards coming, 2 of course will have to go back. Have to figure out, if you're Chris, how am I going to break through this wall of counter magic? Feels like he has to start somewhere with Cunning Wish. Dig Through Time is probably a must counter spell too, though. But you have to start putting some spells together, because the longer you go, it does get a little scary.
Yeah. I mean, he does have the option to use a Cunning Wish to go get a Pyroblast or Red Elemental Blast. I assume he left one of those cards in his sideboard. We saw him side in one of them for game number 2. That allows him to push past the Force of Will. And at that point, all he's got to be able to do is beat a Pyroblast. He also may be able to win this game by just test spelling Paul to death. He might say, slam, show and tell. I know this gets countered. And if he has enough ways to set that up, Paul may just run out of counter spells kind of naturally.
That's kind of what I think he has to do. I think he has to use a card like Cunning Wish as a test spell. Cast this. You don't really know what I can get. Cast this. You don't really know what I can get. That's what I think might be the plan. Though we might see. Okay, it looks like he's going to go with Cunning Wish now. This is the kind of card that warrants counterspell. This can get, as you mentioned, those blast effects. It can go get Flusterstorm. It might be able to go get some wacky instant we've never heard of.
Well, here's the thing. There's one argument to Pyroblast this, because whatever Chris is Cunning Wishing for is not necessarily blue. So maybe you're better served just countering it. But if it's some weird combo piece. But with Paul having Cabal Therapy in his hand, Paul might just say, okay, that's fine, and I'm just going to strip whatever you take with the Cabal Therapy in my hand.
Chris going to get a Flusterstorm. That's good protection. Lynch going to sacrifice Polluted Delta, get himself a red source finally in Volcanic Island.
Players, that is time in the round. Once again, Legacy Open, that is time in the round.
A little under 4 minutes left to go here.
But I think Paul's pretty happy that Chris used a Cunning Wish there on the own turn, because he wanted to cast Cabal Therapy. He was kind of in the dark about what was going on. Now he can just name Flusterstorm, get a good look at the hand,
Move forward accordingly.
maybe flash back depending on what Chris's hand looks like.
So we'll see what he named. He went with Flusterstorm. See the hand here for VanMeter. 2 Dig Through Times. Show and Tell Omniscience.
And this feels like a pretty easy flashback on those Dig Through Times, with Chris's graveyard being as stocked as it is.
Yep. He'll start with a Brainstorm. A Ponder is 1. Don't get a great look at the others, but there's another Force of Will and a Volcanic Island too. Then she'll put 2 cards back. Brainstorm done resolving. Might be time for a Ponder, we'll see.
I think Paul may be just using the Deathrite Shaman here,
Okay,
and then flashing back to Therapy.
fair enough. There go the Dig Through Times. VanMeter's gonna have to rebuild now, because he is short on resources, to say the least.
And still playing against Pyroblast and Force of Will.
Yep. Cunning Wish the draw. There's a Ponder. 3 Force of Wills and a Pyroblast in Paul's hand. Ponder gonna resolve. Volcanic Island, Polluted Delta, rubbish. Shuffle quickly.
Yeah, Paul's on the hunt now for a creature so he can win in time. Now, if he finds one of his good threat cards, especially Tassiger, he may be able to close this thing out very quickly. But time is an issue.
Mystery card coming. Found it. Found a win condition. Young Pyromancer.
Well, you can see there's some hesitation here on Paul's side, because he's only got the 1 red source of mana. So if he casts Young Pyromancer, he is down to just Force of Will as protection.
Yep, and he's not willing to, I don't think. And we'll draw a copy of Emrakul now. Pass the turn back. Lynch will draw. Picked another blue card. That's big. Counterspell's a big draw there.
Counterspell now gives Paul the protection to be able to play the Young Pyromancer, because now he has Counterspell plus Force of Will.
Yeah.
I don't think he wanted to go down to 1 Counterspell available, but now that he has access to 2, he can go ahead and cast this.
Maybe we're going to play a Cunning Wish now. See if this resolves. Looks like it will. See if he wants to go grab. See if he knows what he wants to grab. A card like Through the Breach is really interesting here.
Can't be Pyroblasted.
Yeah. Requires a counterspell. He's going to go like Trickery. That can't be Pyroblasted either.
Benjamin Pye to the standard PIQ score.
He's just going to go after this.
Thank you.
Feels like a little bit of a win here for VanMeter.
Yep. And I actually do like this play from Paul because he still has quite a bit of protection, and he needs to try to win the game here. Although, with the clock hitting 0, gonna be tough.
Yeah. City of Traders the draw. Chris's turn 0.
So yeah, Paul gets 3 turns worth of attacking here. Turns 1, turns 3, and turns 5. I think that's a good aggressive play here. Try to win the game in time.
Yep. There's show until it gets countered. Young Pyromancer will make a token. Lynch will draw. He's got a lot of protection in Red Elemental Blast and Forcible in hand. Lynch will be turn 1. We'll draw a card. Another copy of Force of Will. In we go. Attack for 4. VanMeter's down to 10. It's funny. It might actually be correct for VanMeter not to cast a spell. But he's got to try to win too. So here's a preordain. Yep. Yeah, immediately.
And I like this play from Paul. If Chris did nothing, I actually think Paul was going to Pyroblast just a land or something.
Yep.
To get 5 points of power into play and try to win in 2 turns.
Yep, there's an attack for 5. It's turn 4 now. VanMeter will draw a card. This is going to get counter 2. Maybe not. We'll see. Young Pyromancer and Force of Will. This might actually be okay. This might actually leave Chris alive.
I think Paul has Fire Ice in his hand, which is going to be really hard for Chris to beat.
Yep.
Makes a token, kills a Young Pyromancer.
Looks like Lynch is going to do it on the last possible turn.
Yep. No, that's why I thought that the Pyroblast play on the preordained last turn was fairly simple, but I think that Paul had this set up in such a way that he was going to Pyroblast anything at all.
Yeah.
Remember, because of the way Pyroblast is worded, that's a legal play. It only looks on resolution.
Here's your Pyromancer. Force of Will removing, and that is going to do it. Paul Lynch is going to win this match over Chris VanMeter 2-1, and Grixis Control will take care of Omnitel. And for Lynch, his innovative deck will move him to 9-2, while VanMeter will slide down to 8-3.
I really like the mixture of proactive cards like Cabal Therapy and reactive cards like the counterspells. I think if you're on one end of the spectrum or the other too much, you're going to have some vulnerabilities. If you're all on the discard plan, the cantrips are going to muck you up. If you're all on the counterspell plan, these decks are capable of sculpting hands that can power through, but when you're attacking their hands and backing up with counterspells, you're protecting against both angles, and this Grixis Control deck can definitely do that.
Therapy looks very, very good in this matchup, that's for sure.
Yeah, Therapy, Force of Will, Pyroblast, plus a Clock is a very good mixture of cards to have against a combo deck.